Hey, what is up guys? It's Stan here back with another video. So in this one, I want to talk about a little wrist rest that I picked up from a company called Deltahub, the Deltahub Carpio wrist rest. I've actually seen some advertisements online as well as some influencers talk about this wrist rest, and I decided to go pick it up. And I've actually spent a lot more time at home now that I'm working from home, and I've been playing a lot more computer games and using the mouse. So I've been having a little bit of discomfort in my wrist here. Nothing too serious, but just a little bit of discomfort. So I figured I'd better go do something about it. So that's why I picked this up now. So I've had this thing for about a month now, so I want to give you my thoughts, my opinions about this little product. So the product is a little box like this. The company Deltahub is based out of Europe in a country called Slovenia. So the product is about 30 or so euros, a little bit more in dollars after you make the conversion. In the box itself, you have the product, or the wrist rest, little sticker plaque thing. It's actually not a sticker, just a piece of little paper. And then some information of how to actually use this little wrist rest and some more information about the product itself. Now, you get a nice little carrying pouch made out of kind of like suede microfiber material. And then you have the wrist rest itself. I purchased the large version of this wrist rest. There's actually two versions. There's a large and a small. I think the only major difference between the large and the small is that the small is only 90 millimeters wide as opposed to 100 in this, and it's 1 millimeter shorter in height, so 9 versus 10. The material of construction for this wrist rest is actually made out of two materials. You have a polypropylene backing with a polymer material called SEBS, which stands for styrene, ethylene, butylene, styrene. I have no idea why styrene is in there twice, but the top material kind of feels like a rubberized texture. It's not necessarily soft or squishy, but it's rubberized and grippy. The best way to describe this, I think, is if you think of like a hard eraser, one of those chunky hard erasers. It's not very squishy, but it's got a very rubberized texture to it. So it's contoured nicely to be able to fit your wrist, and it's supposed to sit right at the back of your wrist so that you're able to still manipulate and use your mouse. By having the wrist rest sit right here, you're enforcing positive pressure here and basically relieving pressure off of the wrist itself. So with the mouse here, you can see you're holding the mouse and you have the wrist rest sit right here. And by having more positive pressure here, you're basically moving that wrist up so that the table or whatever isn't going to be interfering with the actual wrist. So how does this wrist rest actually work? Well, basically you have it sitting on your wrist, and you can move your wrist, move your hand along the mouse pad and use your mouse normally. Now, it really kind of depends on how you hold your mouse. If you are a claw type grip or you only use your fingers, then I find that this is probably the better way of using this grip, is because you have a stationary mouse or a stationary wrist rest, and you can just use your fingers to move the mouse. Now, if you like to palm your mouse a little bit more, what ends up happening is the mouse sits a little further in your hand, and then the wrist rest ends up really, really, really close to the actual mouse. So it ends up you have to move the wrist rest quite a bit more to be able to move your mouse. In the regular claw grip here, you can kind of move your fingers and move with the mouse without moving the wrist rest all that much. Now, the wrist rest is actually designed to move and slide on the table. You have three little teeny tiny slippy feet or raised feet. This is actually one of my complaints I have about this wrist rest, is that although it does have three raised sections for slipping, the material actually isn't Teflon, it's just raised polypropylene. So what we'll find is that the mouse glides quite a bit more easily on the mouse pad, while the wrist rest does move and does glide, but it doesn't glide as effortlessly as a mouse. So that's kind of why I prefer to use my mouse in a way that when using this wrist rest, use it in a way that basically I don't have to move the wrist rest all that much, maybe a little bit, but that's why a claw grip is preferred, or at least for me. If I'm palming the mouse, then I find that I have to move this wrist rest quite a bit more, and especially in gaming, it's just you know, it's a little bit too much effort. So that's just something to think about if you're getting something like this, how you're holding the mouse. The actual wrist rest, it can be broken up into 3 parts, and as you can see, it's held together by these little pins here. I don't have any fears about these pins breaking, but I do worry that over time they might become a little bit looser. So you can see here, there's not much holding it in, and over time, maybe this will just get loose and these pieces will start falling apart. So I kind of wish that this was a little bit more glued down, or it was secured a little bit better. And then again, it's probably not that big of a deal, because if it gets to the point where they're falling apart, you know, just by handling it, maybe you could put a little dab of super glue in there just to glue it down so that it doesn't go anywhere. Another point I wanted to make was that, like I said, it comes in 2 different sizes here. So I picked up the large, and I thought that maybe the large would be fitting a little bit better. And looking at this right here, it feels like it fits perfectly. But when I'm actually using this on the table here, I find that I don't necessarily always fall, my hand doesn't necessarily always fall right in the middle. So sometimes, you know, I'm to the right a little bit, I'm to the left a little bit. I don't know if it's because this is too big for my hand, or if the small would be a little bit better for me. I'm just not sure, because this is a relatively small wrist rest, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I'm trying to go with this. It's just, it's not always matching up with my hand whenever time I move my hand to the mouse. You know what, that might just be a user error, I don't know. But I'd be curious to see what a small would feel like for usage. The last thing I did want to mention was that purchasing this wrist rest, I really didn't know what to expect. You know, the pictures, you think you know what you're going to get, but once you actually get it in your hands, the first thing I kind of wish that this product was a little bit softer, a little bit more squishy. I know that, you know, we're talking about hard plastics here and rubberized plastics here, so there is no squish in this, but I keep on finding myself wanting something a little squishier, a little bit softer, while still being able to give me that kind of lift. You know, it's kind of like this right here, for example, like the seat chair, this material right here is kind of squishy, but kind of hard. And you know, that would be a lot more comfortable than putting your hand on a rigid, albeit ergonomically contour to your wrist, or your hand, but it's still hard of a material, and it's not very comfortable to, you know, put your hand down on something hard at all times. I know it's meant for ergonomics, but I still think that they could have made it something a little bit more squishy. Although, you know, if you go with something softer, then it's gonna wear out much more. But, you know, I feel like maybe you can get some kind of replaceable tops, just maybe it's a version 2 that they can put out, but it'd be a lot more comfortable if it was just that much more softer of a material. So overall, I think this product does achieve its goal in making you raise your palm right here a little bit more to relieve pressure off of your wrist. What I have found is that while using it, I have a little bit less tingling sensation, a little bit less discomfort in my normal day-to-day usage of the computer. So I guess what I'm saying is this product does seem to work. It seems like there could be some optimizations, at least in my opinion, but overall, for a $30 simple little product, I think at least it works for me. So if you want to check this out, I'll make sure to link it in the description down below for your convenience. And tell me if you guys picked this up or what are your thoughts on this little Carpio wrist rest. Anyway, my name is Stan. I'll see you guys in the next one.